two-time MVP in the National Basketball Association, an 8-time All-Star, and of course a 3-time member of the All-NBA First Team, as well as the general manager of the Canadian national team. Let's all welcome Mr. Steve Nash. Morning, Steve. Welcome to the Philippines.
Thank you.
I think the first question is, I mean, you're obviously passionate about basketball. We're passionate about basketball. What took you so long to drop by and to just take in everything here in Manila?
You know, believe it or not, I've never been invited.
We have to do something about that.
So you know, the truth is, you know, I love to travel and I would always be open to seeing everywhere in the world. But I didn't realize until the last, I would say, maybe since I came to the Lakers 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was, how big basketball was in the Philippines. I didn't realize that, so I've started to take notice the last 4 or 5 years, and it definitely has been somewhere that I'd known or had Filipino friends in North America, but you know, I didn't realize as much about it, and I was really excited to come here this time.
Well, you're always welcome here, and you're always welcome in future visits. We know you're a free spirit. We know you've been around the world, so we'd love to have you back here in the Philippines.
Thank you.
All right, so just a few questions before we open it up to the press. The Canadian national team opened up with a 77-69 win over Turkey yesterday, led, of course, by Corey Joseph, who's with the Toronto Raptors right now. Can you just give us maybe your initial thoughts on what you saw from Canada and just how great they looked yesterday?
Sure, it was a great win. You know, these tournaments, there's very little margin for error. You know, you can't, you know, give away an opportunity. And last night I thought we outplayed Turkey. I don't think either team played great, to be honest, but I thought Corey was terrific and led us to victory. And you know, we have a young team that's building, and hopefully as the tournament goes on, we can get better and give ourselves an opportunity to play for a berth in Rio.
When you see your fellow Canadians playing, do you still get that itch sometimes to play and maybe just go out there and be a mentor to these guys?
Yeah. You know, it's funny, I don't as much in the locker room before the game, I do. You know, but once I'm watching them play, you know, it feels so foreign to me somehow all of a sudden, you know, but that atmosphere, that tension in the locker room, I miss that. And I miss the pressure to perform and to win, and that's something that's really hard to replace.
Well, we got one of the biggest ovations from the Mall of Asia crowd yesterday, so I'm sure everyone is happy to see you here. So at this point, we're going to open the floor to members of the media. We'll just do it first come, first serves. Anyone want to start us off with a few questions? Yeah, go ahead, Sir Mark.
Hi, Steve. Good morning once again. We've been following your career all throughout, and we know how you asserted yourself even against the big men in the NBA. And the sport itself is evolving worldwide, including the Philippines. And knowing that we have a small lineup, a small team compared to the other Asian teams, how do you think we can take advantage of our size? We're not that big, but we have the speed, we have the agility. How do you think we can take advantage of that the way you did in your career?
Sure. I mean, I think it's an age-old question in basketball, you know. Traditionally, I think we've always said that, there we go. Traditionally, I think we've always said that you can't teach height, you know, and that in the end, when people get tired, they don't get shorter. And so there's this old adage that height can win, but I think we've seen it change, you know, in the way the game's played. We see a lot of, you know, fours playing the center spot. We've seen a lot of really versatile or stretch fours, playmaking fours become, you know, very popular around the game these days, at least at the NBA level. So I think there's definitely a change where we've shown there's been let's say a blueprint on how to be successful when you don't have the size, and I think that is by thinking and playing quickly, you know, by making quick decisions, by making teams change sides of the floor defensively, making them chase you, making them make quick decisions and therefore make mistakes and give you opportunities to get in the paint, create breakdowns and put them in rotations where not only you can get open shots and three-pointers most importantly, but you can also get offensive rebounds and negate the height advantage.
Your thoughts on how we played the game yesterday? You saw the game.
I didn't get to see the game because I was with our staff and going over our game. So I'll have to watch some tape on the Philippine team. But you know, I think it's fantastic that the game is so important here to people, and where there's passion, there's potential. And You know, I think here to play at home is fantastic, not just for this tournament and opportunity to go to the Olympics, but I think it's fantastic for the growth of the game in this country, because we've seen a tremendous golden era of talent in Canada. And, you know, with tournaments like this, I think the Philippines can also have their own era of developing talent, but this may be, you know, the ignition rather than the payoff. So I think it's fantastic for the country here. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have any other questions? Yeah, JC, go ahead.
Yeah, Casey from Sports Illustrated. You obviously had most success in the NBA with the Phoenix Suns, with the 7-second offense. If you were still playing today with that team, would you have success in today's game?
You know, I think we would have been a good team for sure. I don't know if we would have won a championship or been in the conference finals or what level we would have been at. I think it's difficult to compare generations, so to speak. You know, and the truth is also that, you know, I think after that first season, I was in Phoenix 8 years. After that first season, we didn't really play 7 seconds or less anymore, but we still continued to use a smaller lineup that made quick decisions and spaced the floor and made the defense, stretched the defense and made them make decisions quickly. And I think we see that throughout the league nowadays. You know, whether teams are taking quick shots or not, we see all teams seemingly want to space the floor, get penetration, and kick out for threes and put the defense under pressure that way, instead of the traditional way where they would try to beat people in the post one-on-one with size, strength, and skill. You know, I think the rules have made it more difficult. In the old days, the NBA rules allowed you to really isolate, but now the illegal defense rules are much more relaxed, with a defender being able to zone in the lane for under 3 seconds, and so it's not as effective to post up anymore. So I think our team would have been fine in this era, but I couldn't predict, you know, where we would stack up with today's game.
You have been watching a lot of Warriors games. Your thoughts on the Kevin Durant?
Yeah. I think it's great. You know, I mean, I think that, first of all, for Kevin personally, he made the move that was best for him. You know, I think he saw an opportunity to win in Golden State, but I think more importantly, I knowing Kevin, he's a friend of mine. I think that he was just as, you know, excited to be in a really positive environment. They have a great culture there, great coach who's empowering and at the same time is demanding, and I think they'll bring the best out of him. But I think it was as much a personal move for his happiness and development as it was to win. So I think he had all the power to choose where he wanted to go within the rules and the construct of the game, and I take my hat off him for making a bold decision.
Thank you very much, JC. Anyone else? Yeah, Naveen, go ahead.
I'm not sure if this was asked already, but Steve, your old coach, Mike D'Antoni, is in Houston now, and obviously James Harden is going to be his main playmaker. How do you envision Harden and D'Antoni and the Rockets, you know, moving forward?
I think that Coach D'Antoni and James Harden will be a great fit. You know, I think he'll space the floor and be clever in using James. I do think, though, that, you know, the Rockets have been utilizing James in a way that was kind of molded out of the way we played in Phoenix. You know, spacing the floor, getting him in pick and rolls where he can get into the paint and make plays and put pressure on the defense. So I don't think a lot will change, but I think Mike will do a great job of refining his game and making him a better player, bringing the best out in him, and hopefully turning them into a winning culture.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the media? Yes, sir, go ahead.
Good morning.
Thank you. Your thoughts on Canada's chances to go all the way to Rio? You've seen how France played last night against our team.
I didn't get to see the game last night yet. I'm sure I'll watch the tape of it, but you know, I know France is a terrific team, a lot of veterans, a lot of experience. They'll be very difficult for anybody to beat here. Having said that, you know, this is sport, and anything's possible, as we saw last year when we, you know, we beat, I think, Venezuela by 27 points, and 4 days later lost to them by 2 points in the game to go to the Olympics. You know, anything is possible. So we'll hold on to the belief that we're a growing young team that's learning every day, and we're going to fight for every inch, and hopefully we'll put ourselves in a position where we can compete with anybody, even a team as formidable as France.
Just to piggyback on that question, Steve, I mean, Canadian basketball is in the midst of a transition. You have really young players like Corey Joseph, Andrew Wiggins, Tristan Thompson. Can you maybe share with us what's been the secret behind the resurgence of basketball in Canada, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's multifaceted. I think, first of all, there has been a love for the game in Canada for a long time, but it was, obviously a lot smaller than a sport like hockey in Canada or soccer even. But I think when the Raptors and the Grizzlies came to Canada and we had NBA teams in our country, it put the game on TV in our country every day. And it gave people an opportunity to become intimately involved in the game, whether they're as a fan, as a player, as a coach. There were more hoops put up in driveways and parks. And so the importance of the game grew, people's understanding of the game grew, and the demand for basketball grew. I think that was a huge part of it. And then, I think also the internet, for players to be able to go online and see the best players of their age group or the best practices of the best players in the world. It made the world very small, as it has in many industries. And I think for our kids, they were easily available to get online and see like what's out there. Learn in what was traditionally a hockey country. They were able to build a basketball culture quickly. And I believe there's more NBA players from Toronto than New York City now. And I don't think that's something any of us would have thought, 5, 10, 15 years ago, let alone, many years ago.
Do you keep in touch with maybe some of the younger players in Canada, just to give them some, some information, some wisdom from your experiences in the league as well?
Sure. I think that's a big part of my role with the national team, is to share my experiences and to help form a program that allows them to improve. We don't have a lot of funding for our program in Canada, but we have some experience and some people that have a lot of passion for the game. And, through a few, relatively few very passionate people, I think we're able to share a lot with our young generation, from 12, 13-year-olds up to our national team players.
All right. Any other questions from our media? Go ahead, Carlo.
Good morning.
How big of a hand did you play in getting Tristan Thompson to play?
Well, I didn't play a huge role this year. In the past, I've definitely, tried to empower Tristan to be a leader in this program. But this year, I wanted Tristan to make a decision for himself. He had such a fantastic season, obviously winning his first NBA championship, and it coming so soon before the trip to Manila. It's a very difficult personal decision. So I wanted him to make one that he felt comfortable with, because I wouldn't want to force him in that situation to come here if he wasn't fully prepared to, because it's a lot. If you're just off a championship season, you had 2 weeks to kind of decompress and prepare for the national team. If your heart's not in it, it's probably not good for him to be here. So he made a decision, I think, largely on his own, that he wanted to represent his country shortly after winning a championship, and we couldn't be happier and prouder of him. And I think it's in many ways, he's very, I think he's someone that all of us Canadians are really excited and proud that he's here, considering all that he's accomplished recently.
And what's your reaction to Andrew Wiggins?
Yeah, of course we're sad for all the guys that aren't here. There's a number of them. Some of them were injured. Kelly Olynyk is injured. He would love to be here. Dwight Powell and Andrew Nicholson just agreed to terms of their new contracts, so it was tricky for them to be here. So we understood that. Andrew and Nick Stauskas wanted to stay home and work at their games, and that's their decision. We support them. We continue to be a resource for them and want them to be a part of this program. We're disappointed, but at the same time, those guys are part of the family, and we wish them a tremendous summer working on their game and getting ready for next season and having tremendous seasons and hopefully playing for the national team in the future.
Go ahead, David.
Steve, speaking of Andrew Wiggins, obviously he was the Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. Just from what you've watched from him, obviously with Canada and the NBA, what do you think he needs to improve on to take the next step in being an NBA superstar?
Sure, I think his overall skill level is continually getting better and needs to continue to get better if he's going to be a superstar. There's no indication that he's not going in that direction. I think he took a step up this year from last year. The other big part of it is experience. You can't cheat experience. You need to play, you need to make mistakes, you need to learn. And he's given that opportunity in Minnesota. They need him to play, they need him to score and do things on the court. And that gives him the opportunity to gain that experience. So it's coming. He's improving all the time. you know, I think he's really motivated. So I think his trajectory is going in a good direction, and he's going to be a superstar before we know it.
All right, do we have any other questions from our members of the media? All right, then, yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Just a message for the Filipino fans who really love basketball, aspiring, and some of them aspire to make to the NBA.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I lost you there. It's amazing to see how important the game is in the Philippines. What a fantastic realization to come here and to feel how important basketball is and how much passion there is for the game. And for all those kids here that, you know, aspire to play in the NBA, I would just say that anything's possible. You know, I was a skinny, short kid from the west coast of Canada who had nobody from my neighborhood who had played in the NBA, and it seemed like it was on the other side of the world. You know, maybe that's the way it feels to kids here sometimes, but anything is possible with big dreams and imagination and hard work, and if anyone can attest to that, it's myself. And I think also you look at Steph Curry, you know, I had one scholarship offer. No one would have ever thought I would have finished my career in the position I was in, but I had a big belief and passion for the game and was willing to outwork people. And I think the same is true of Steph. So for the majority of kids that are shorter like he and I are, and rely on, you know, hard work and toughness and imagination and skill, I would just encourage them to fall in love with the game and practice every day.
Yeah, go ahead, JC.
As a kid growing up, which point guard did you idolize most?
Isaiah Thomas was my hero growing up. You know, he was smaller. He wasn't like the greatest athlete, although obviously he's a fantastic athlete, but by NBA standards, he wasn't, you know, dunking on people every night or overpowering people, but his toughness, his competitiveness, his skill level, his imagination, you know, those things, he had so much charisma with the ball that, you know, I really thought, hey, this is somebody that I could try to emulate and try to be a little bit like, and so I definitely tried to emulate his game as a kid.
Okay, one last call for any questions before we put an end to this press conference. Okay, so I guess, Steve, can we just ask you maybe to just give one last message to everyone, to the Philippines, for FIBA, just to send us off today?
Yeah, first of all, I just appreciate everyone coming today, and for me to be here with Fun 88 has been fantastic, but really struck by how warm the people are here in the Philippines, and what a great experience this is for me to experience your country and part of the world, and hopefully I'll be able to come back many times in the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve Nash, and that's going to conclude our press conference for this morning. Again, this press conference is brought to us by Fun 88 in partnership with